Damn it, Elder. Okay.
And with that, welcome to Teach Progress, where we learn about important ways that we can avoid mistakes in thinking. So, what we do every time is we go over the various mistakes in thinking, adding to them, reminding ourselves, and remembering how to make arguments that highlight those so that we can help people de-radicalize themselves. The goal being to make it so that people will not believe it the next time someone tries to give them a radicalizing argument. Oh, very good. Kat, do you feel comfortable reading through the slides?
All right, I can give it a go.
Very cool.
Confirmation bias. It's true because I believe it. The tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms one's preconceptions. Believing your rhetoric is not racist because a few of the people you are racist against agree with you. Attribution error. If they did it, they caused it. The tendency to overemphasize personal characteristics and ignore situational factors. Saying someone is lazy because they are poor, ignoring systemic issues.
Mm-hmm.
Substitution error, accepting an answer to another question. When faced with a difficult question, people often substitute it with a simpler one and answer that instead. Saying an ideology is a mandate because a candidate won an election.
Mm-hmm.
False equivalence. Two things seem the same but aren't. When two things are compared as if they are equal, even though they aren't. Saying that there are two sides to climate change.
Right. Or, for years when I was younger, the smoking debate as to whether or not smoking was unhealthy. There were no two sides.
Yeah. Mott and Bailey, invisibly going from indefensible to agreeable. A debate tactic where someone defends a difficult to defend position but retreats to a different, easy to defend idea when challenged. Saying, get rid of the Department of Education, and then saying, education needs reform when asked.
Yeah. The key word here is, all I'm saying is, because it takes their grandiose argument and boils it down, and when they say all I'm saying is, they get to something that just about everyone agrees with.
Zero-sum thinking. If they win, I lose. The belief that one's gain must come at another's loss. Thus, no mutual benefit is possible. Think that if minimum wage goes up, my above minimum wage goes down in value. Black and white thinking. It's all or nothing. A cognitive error where someone sees situations in only two categories, good or bad, ignoring any middle ground or spectrum of possibilities. My political leader must not be a criminal because I like what he stands for. Gish gallop, making many arguments to run away. A debate tactic where one overwhelms an opponent with a rapid series of many arguments without regard for their accuracy or strength, making it difficult to refute saying climate change is good, and if it isn't, then it isn't man-made, and if it is man-made, we can't do anything about it. Correlation and causation. Uh, one followed the other, so one caused the other. Assuming that because you can come up with a story about how one thing causes the other, it does. Arguing not being married is why people are poor rather than poor people don't get married. Argument from incredulity. Jesus.
Incredulity.
Incredulity. Thank you.
Incredulity.
Incredulity. It sounds better in my head. Okay. I can't imagine it, so it can't be true. Concluding something must be false because it's difficult to understand or believe. Saying we can't have universal health care because how would that work? Isn't that also like a status quo bias? Like it's something you're so used to and then you can't even fathom something different?
Yeah, so the status quo bias has two elements to it. So incredulity is like, I don't get how that would work, or nuh-uh. But a status quo bias, on the one hand, you only focus on the positives of what your current system is, and on the other, you focus on the negatives of the changed system. And that keeps us there. So healthcare remains a very good example. You're like, well, I still have good healthcare, and look at all the people employed by the healthcare industry. So you're looking at the positives of the current system. And what if you have to ration healthcare if everyone has access? That's looking at the negatives of the change. When you're not looking at the cost of all these people employed doing nothing of value, having a job is the same as doing nothing of value if you can get rid of that job. And you're not looking at all the people who aren't getting preventive health care so that they can make sure they don't get so sick and are more productive if we have universal health care. But it's really easy to look at what will I lose, what will we lose if we change, and really easy to say, oh, look at what I've got with what I have now. So that's a status quo bias.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Personal attacks. Or did that
sunk cost?
Sunk costs. I've invested too much, quit now. Continuing a behavior due to previously invested resources, time, money, effort, even if it's not the best choice. Continuing to buy into the QAnon conspiracy even when what Q says is proven wrong. Personal attacks. Attacking the person, not the argument. Attacking an opponent's character or traits instead of engaging with their argument. For example, how dumb are you that you need examples?
Yeah, Andy, why are you always angry?
I don't know.
Yeah, you're getting emotional already.
Yeah, sunk costs.
Lifetime of red anger. I'm not going back now.
False dichotomy. It's either this or that, no other options. Presenting options in one small domain as the only possibilities when more domains exist. Either the borders are perfectly closed or we don't have a real nation. Yeah, that's an exhausting one. Learned helplessness. Nothing I do makes a difference. It never has. A mental state where repeated failures lead to the belief that one cannot change their situation. Not voting because they have all the power. Or there's no difference between either party. Okay. Moving the goalposts. Changing the criteria as soon as they're met. Demanding more or different evidence after initial criteria have been met, making it impossible to satisfy the new demands. Saying that you think your ideas are better for the economy and then saying your ideas are more fair when shown they are bad for the economy. Hasty generalization, assuming what's true for a few is true for all. Drawing a conclusion about an entire group based on a small or underrepresented sample. Concluding that because some immigrants commit crimes, immigrants are criminals. Appeal to unjustifiable authority. Someone in power said it is so. No, wait. Someone in power said it, so it must be true. Appeal to authority is a fallacy when those who use it do not provide any justification to support their argument. Believing a dragon researcher you heard on Joe Rogan, even though the researcher part is a chiropractor.
They're the most trustworthy of scientists.
That's what I've heard. Sorry, trying to get this.
Hey, you're doing great.
Okay. Gambler's fallacy. Past outcomes affect future probability. The gambler's fallacy is a cognitive bias that occurs when someone believes that the probability of an event changes after a series of outcomes, believing that if we just keep trying the same risky policy, eventually it will balance out the failures. Straw man. Attacking an exaggerated or misrepresented version of an argument. Misrepresenting an opponent's argument, often by exaggerating or simplifying it, then attacking the misrepresentation rather than the actual argument. Saying, so you think we should enslave doctors, when someone says, we should have free universal health care.
Mm-hmm.
Appeal to unjustifiable
We already
authority.
did that one.
Oh, whoops.
There we go.
Red herring. Distracting with an irrelevant point. Introducing an irrelevant topic to divert attention away from the original issue, often to avoid addressing a challenging question or point. When told about the genocide in Gaza, saying Muslims are against gays. Okay. Reductio ad absurdum. Following the logic.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to pronounce it correctly?
No, you did. Reductio ad
Oh, okay.
absurdum.
Did.
Okay.
Also
Yeah, it's a
known
Harry
as
Potter
Potter
spell.
Policy.
Following the logic to extreme ends. Reductio ad absurdum is a logical and philosophical argumentative technique that attempts to provide a claim by showing that the opposite of the claim would lead to an absurd or contradictory conclusion, suggesting that implementing social distancing will eventually lead to a prison planet. Genetic fallacy, dismissing an idea based on its origins rather than its content. The genetic fallacy is a logical fallacy that occurs when the validity of an idea is based on its origins or history rather than its actual merits. You're going to wear an engagement ring, aren't you? No. Are you? Don't you know it started for sexist reasons?
Yeah, and or I'm against Planned Parenthood because the person who started it was for eugenics or something like this.
Yeah, heard that one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, tradition fallacy, arguing that something is right solely because it has been accepted or practiced for a long time. An appeal to tradition fallacy assumes that the old way of thinking was correct when it was introduced and that it's still correct today. rejecting new math because we've always taught it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Circumcision.
Yeah, circumcision's an example. Yeah. We've always done it that way. And when you're pushed on it, like, what's the evidence for or against it? Well, it really comes down to a family tradition.
Anchoring and adjustment, relying too heavily on the first piece of information. A cognitive bias where an initial piece of information serves as a referential point for subsequent decisions. Believing a pair of shoes at Neiman Marcus is good deal at $100 because it was originally priced at $200, even if it is for sale at $50 at Target.
Yeah, this is super powerful when negotiating. If you start with, like, if you get to name the price to start with, you can anchor up and then adjust down. Or if you've been to these stores where everything's 90% off and you walk in and it's like label $100, but for you, $10. You think you're getting a good deal even if the item's really worth only $5 at the store down a few over.
And stores get sued for that all the time too. They'll like have a sale and they'll put tags on something that'll be like marked down, but it'll be the same price that it was, but the tag will just say now it's marked down 50%.
Yeah, much smarter is to increase the price just before having the sale.
Yeah, I think that's legal actually.
That is legal.
Legal or illegal?
Legal, they're allowed to do that. They're allowed to increase the price 20% and then reduce the price back to what they had it a month ago. That's the majority of Black Friday sales.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was all of the fallacies. Thank you very much, Kate.
That's what we've done so far. And since we meet at a regular time with a regular group of people and engage in this ritualistic behavior, all coming together under a general idea that we share, I'm going to organize this as a church.
Sure.
All right, I'm taking that as an approval.
Good to me.
Deep joy.
Andy agrees with organizing it as a church. Now we don't make any supernatural claims.
That's an attribution fallacy.
And I'm just trying to sell it to you here, Andy. We don't have to pay taxes in America. That's the winner.
I know. Well, churches don't pay taxes in the UK either.
Yeah, we both have really messed up countries. That's not okay.
Yeah. Oh, my country's not perfect by any
Can we get a
stretch of
statue
the
put up on a
imagination.
government like property somewhere?
Oh, that'd be good. Just like a list of the major fallacies.
Like how the Satanists did with the statue of Satan.
Except for it'd be a big screen logo.
Yeah. No one has to pay tithe this Hollywood court. I think that would be a yeah. How about reverse tithing? Whatever money comes in goes out to the parishioners.
Yeah, that's how it was supposed to work in the first place. Never did.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be really good if some of the volunteers, we started making like podcasts, just saying what we think, and we could record ourselves in here or record ourselves talking about ideas, talking to friends or family or someone, and then we can put it together through the podcast network so everyone has their stories that they're telling or experiences. Maybe talking about how they've implemented clear thinking in their lives. What do you guys think?
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah. Cool. And then we can start recording that, and that will be what we can spend some money on. We can buy some people some microphones that sound good for podcasts.
I need a whole new voice.
Oh, did you lose yours?
My voice isn't great. I don't like my voice. I hate it.
Oh, well, you're just your voice is lovely, Andy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's a fallacy error, but okay.
Well, there's a I can't remember the guy's name. You sound a lot like this guy who makes money being a podcaster. I can't remember his
Really?
name though.
Yeah, you have a British accent. You could do any sort of
Mhm.
novel reading.
Anything that makes it sound like you're from the UK, that just makes you seem smart.
See, that's an American thing. There's an idea that Americans have got this sort of like, I don't want to use the phallic. No, I don't.
Fetish.
The Americans do have the phallic, anal, oral, phallic, all three.
I don't like using those words. But yeah,
Oh,
hard on is what I was going to use for an English accent.
I don't like phallic or penis. I'll say hard on your cock.
No, but that's what I was going to say. But because you said those other ones, that kind of led me into saying it.
I
led
gotcha.
there. That I was led by the
That taboo
by
was
the old
broken.
Holy Spirit.
Holy Spirit. Yeah.
Holy Spirit.
What are you talking about? Fuck. No, I don't like my voice at all. I don't like hearing it.
I believe in
'cause I
the
don't hear
Catholic
my
Church is
voice
called
as you
communion.
guys hear it.
Hmm.
And I've heard my voice and it sounds horrible.
Right. All of our voices are a little more bassy in our heads than they are when they're recorded.
Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
when I
gonna
took
listen to
my
yourself.
psychology class, they talked about that, and it's like really common for people to hate their own voice when they hear recordings because of the disparity.
Yeah.
Right.
Elder, you're gonna listen to
It's
the podcast.
it's to
gonna be
do
like,
with the tympanic bone, the stirrup bone in your ear. The vibration is different in your skull, which makes you hear it differently. And that's why, as you rightly say, people generally don't like the sound of their own voice. And I don't like my accent, which is also so. My voice and my accent really annoy me.
Well, your dislike for your accent's internalized colonialism. It's time to overcome
Yes,
this
that is true. You know,
English centrism.
Scottish centrism.
Yeah, it's more Scottish centrism. Overcome the English centrism. Hold on to the beauty that is Scotland.
I'm doing my best.
So there's something that's not a fallacy. There are two Scottish things, right? There's a Scottish fallacy, which maybe we can add this. The no true Scotsman fallacy. Are you guys familiar with this?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And so tell us, what's the no true Scotsman fallacy, Jazz?
No true Scotsman fallacy is trying to disparage or prove someone is wrong because they were never part of a certain group to begin with, or that they can't prove that they were part of that group to begin with.
Right. So, like, if you say, well, Scotsmen are intelligent, and then you show a stupid Scotsman, you say, yes, but that Scotsman puts sugar on his porridge, and no true Scotsman puts sugar on his porridge. So, I see it a lot in...
Kilt.
Yeah,
No true Scotsman would wear underwear when wearing.
No true Scotsman would wear underwear when wearing a kilt. Therefore, that person who failed to moon everyone was no true Scotsman. See, these are important questions. I see it a lot with Christianity. Just about every sub-denomination of Christianity has a no true Christian clause, where anyone who does anything wrong wasn't a real Christian anyway.
Yeah, we run across
Or
that
when they-
quite a lot
when-
in big screen.
When they leave the religion, oh yeah, they weren't really Christian to begin with.
Right, right. And it's obviously asinine.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a kind of post hoc
Defense
reasoning.
mechanism. It's a defense
Mhm.
mechanism.
Yep. And then I'd like to talk about one more thing I want to add to the board. It's called fluid compensation. Do you guys know what that is?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so here's what happens. When meaning is violated in one place, people make up for it by being judgmental in another place. It's called
Okay.
fluid compensation. So let's say, and this is true, if you show people, this is the original study, if you show people a bunch of cards, one after another, but every once in a while, some of them are black diamonds. You know, diamonds are red in the deck. And they're just flipping by, they see black diamonds every once in a while. then they will issue, and then you say, okay, this person was going 10 miles over the speed limit. They will give much harsher penalties to people for violating minor violations as a way of fluidly compensating for the violation in their expectations that they've experienced. So you can see this all over the place. We see this with accepting the genocide in Gaza. People's meaning was violated by a terrorist attack, so they accept much harsher retribution elsewhere because they're trying to regain meaning, and they've lost meaning over here. And it doesn't even have to be so directly connected. Often people will go kick the dog, even though the dog had nothing to do with their crappy day at work. These are meaning maintenance mechanisms, and the first one, the most common we can see, is fluid compensation.
Yeah, the idea of revenge entirely, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, because it's a revenge act.
Yep.
Same could
Picking
be
on
said
something that
about
can't.
prison justice.
Yeah, and it doesn't
Well,
have to be directly related, but go ahead.
Yeah, the death penalty is basically legalized revenge. So is that what you're talking about?
So it doesn't just have to be revenge against the person. So let's say that you don't speak Spanish and the people around you are speaking Spanish because, but you're like, this is America, you're supposed to speak English, and you're upset about that. So you vote for the death penalty. It has nothing to do with people speaking Spanish and you being upset. It has to do with you fluidly compensating by increasing your sense of justice somewhere else.
I'm sure there's another word for that.
Being an ass.
Well, apart from that, but there is an actual word for it. And
Being unable to express yourself correctly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are lots of meaning maintenance mechanisms, but fluid compensation's the one that seems most accessible, and I'll talk about others another time. But in short, if you want to know about them, just learning stuff helps you stand in a different place so you can judge what you're doing without feeling judged like it's attacking you. So education is absolutely key to being able to change our minds.
Also, being
like
able...
Tom here, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say it's also being able to empathize with the perpetrator and try and understand from their perspective why they did it. Like, say somebody robs a convenience store and, like, kills the cashier. You have to think, oh, like, maybe they were hungry and had, like, literally were trying to feed their family or some other, reason to why they did it. It's easier to understand why they did it, so you wouldn't be so likely to place so harsh a judgment on them.
Yeah, and the more education that we have, the easier it is to take a systems perspective and think of everything as an outcome of ongoing processes. We just keep repeating the same behaviors. So, of course, every system has the perfect design for the outcomes it gets. If you have an outcome of people knocking over convenience stores, you have a system that's designed in a way that generates people that knock over convenience stores. So blaming the individual is like blaming a sprocket for breaking, when you should really be asking, why didn't we get better sprockets? Why are we putting too much on those sprockets? I'll be right back.
I hosted a room the other night. It was about I think 2 hours I was hosting it. Labeled it Learning to Think. And I essentially approached this as a problem to solve, right? So I tried using really basic language, right? So all the people that came in the room really started it off with, what is truth, right? And it kind of posed the problem with the language, and how a lot of us, we don't actually, ask ourselves what these words mean, because ultimately we don't have to, right? We get by, we go to work, we get our food, we cook our dinner. These problems never really need to be addressed. They're not necessary to live life, so they get overlooked. But if we start looking at it, what really is truth? And I kind of had the room start to build a system and breaking it down. Well, what is truth? How it's not a property that things possess, but rather a criteria that we say something meets. So it needs a proposition for there to be a truth, because there has to be some knowledge that it's built upon. And essentially, I got the room to go with me the whole way and build essentially an epistemology on a system of knowledge that can get you to truth. And then I led them into, how do you separate that from subjective and objective, especially if we start from the point of our experience is all we have. How can we say that anything outside of that is real? So how do we invent a system to still delineate between objective and subjective? And got them there. And it was really interesting, because posing it as a problem to solve essentially put their brains into a gear where they're trying to create solutions instead of trying to feed them the thing.
Yes, I do. Like, that's an excellent way to start a room, unlike the, debate rooms of, oh, we're in a conflicting conversation, I'm going to have a better idea than you. But if you pose it as, hey, it's a problem we all have to solve, then they're working together to think about it. And then also, people's opinion when somebody brings up a point, it's less of you're trying to disprove their opinion, but you're also trying to, you're more likely to...
I'm just showing the problems in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, shoot, well, that won't work for this, because what about this? And they go,
oh,
yeah, because when they're doing this with you, they want to find the problems as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed is, lock the damn room, because I had a couple people come in halfway, and they're not playing on the same team, because they're just hearing this stuff and going, oh, well, what about this? What about this? And it all gets muddled down, and it's not productive at all.
Oh.
But the people that you got going along with you on that from the objective, that mindset works really well.
Yeah. That is definitely a smart way to go about it.
I actually sent you a thing on Discord.
Yes, you did. Let me pull it up.
It's essentially just the outline of the questions I asked and what the room participation ended up suggesting. And crazy enough, they basically just ended up rebuilding my epistemology and nexialism.
Yeah. I'm like, I wish it was a screenshot. Let me see. Because I don't want to leak DMs. Leak DMs, no.
Here, I'll just screenshot
I got it. I'll just get a
image.
notepad.
I can just screenshot it.
Oh, there's all of the... Let's see. Control A.
What?
Control V. That was originally... was it Elder's Room rules? Was the thing I had... You know that big list of 200 rules for your room?
No, that's Torts.
Oh, Torch Room. Yeah, I had that in my notepad last. So that's what showed up, and I'm like, oops. It's fine.
But yeah, these were kind of the notes that I had up on the screen. If you want to expand it, or...
Yeah, let me try and figure out how to...
No, just hold Control and scroll up.
Okay, Control... Let me pretend like I know how to use a computer. There we go.
There you go. Now just hit the full screen. Or whatever you want.
Yeah, let me scale it real quick. Whoop! There, you can read that, right? Actually, let me scroll it one a little bit more. There.
Right, so truth. What does it mean for something to be true, right?
It comports to reality.
Requires a proposition, a claim. Claims come from knowledge, that which you are convinced of. So, how do we build a system of being convinced of the right things? So the 5 things there were the things that were suggested by the room. As we were going, people were raising their hands. So after we got that, how do we get a good system for what to actually be convinced of if it can meet all these different things, right? So we'll call that truth. And then how do we determine if something is objective or subjective? Because it might be true, but still just subjective, right? So how do you test against that? So then we went into these 3 things below it, and that's kind of where it went.
Yeah, it's consistency with everyone, requires measurability, eliminates bias, which experience in the same circumstances, under the same circumstances, identity truth. This is actually pretty smart. I actually do like that. It's almost like a scientific method of truth.
Yeah, it gets very close to my actual epistemology I wrote out in Nexialism. But yeah, the activity I think is really the important thing, because they don't have to take this away exactly. What the real value is this problem's going to sit in their head, and hopefully they think about it and they go, well, maybe I can improve on it, or maybe I can employ it. Maybe I can use this to actually figure out things that aren't true. It's learning this methodology, this way of thinking, and actually analyzing the structures in your thought process. The things that you don't need to read into, but if you do, you'll have a greater understanding.
Yeah, let me sum it up. Basically, Alder, I don't know how much you heard, Alder made a room and basically had a group of people work as a team to basically define their truth. And it has like repeatability, measurability, coherence, consistency, recognition of objective and subjective, and then some more drop downs for that. So, but I think it's really smart to have a room with, hey, here is a stated goal, that kind of thing.
I like that. Can we see the stream chat, because I think it's commenting on this.
Oh, sorry.
Let's see. Hollywood has to say, I've seen this, maybe engaged in another thing. I'm really taken aback by this fluid compensation idea, concept policy. Love the measurability. You have to have a metric. Yeah, okay, so, Elder. The difficulty is that when it comes to the social sciences, at least, what we're talking about, politics, philosophy, moral reasoning, the subjective viewpoint of a bunch of upper middle class white guys gets called objective, because if a bunch of white guys in a room all have PhDs and they say, well, this is how it works, then that becomes objectively how it works.
Right, which is why I equipped them with new language on what objective and subjective is.
Yeah, and so my suggestion is to remove the word objective and replace it with objectified or objectifiable or objectification. And it's only because I want to take that objective and point back at the process that generates it, which you're doing, which is a great thing to do. Indeed, this is the process of generating what we call objective. But it's not really objective in the same way that force equals mass times acceleration is objective.
It is.
It's objectified.
No, it is. It is objective. Like, that is how you find objective. Like, this is the cheat code. Like, anything that doesn't meet that description isn't objective.
Oh, so that would be all of the social sciences. Yeah, all of the social sciences. In neurology, any complex system, they're not going to meet these criteria.
Well, what is the proposition?
Yeah. Consistent with everyone. Okay, everyone needs to eat. All right. After that, does everyone need to eat bananas? Can everyone eat bananas? No, some people are allergic to bananas, right?
right, then the conditions wouldn't be the same.
Right. So objectively speaking, are bananas objectively edible?
I'm totally lost on
Mhm.
the what you're trying to tell me here.
Oh yeah. So your
So-
first criteria, objective or
Right.
subjective, it's consistent with everyone.
No,
What is consistent with everyone? Name one thing.
don't paraphrase it because the wording is important.
Yeah, it's consistent with everyone.
That which is experienced the same under the same conditions.
Okay. Objective. That which is experienced the same under the same circumstances/conditions. And again, what are the same circumstances and conditions for something?
Right. So when you have a proposition, there's the
Mhm.
statement
Mhm.
and then the condition, right?
Mhm.
So the Grand Canyon is objectively real, the condition being that you're at this location, you have eyes, you can experience it, right? So these would be the conditions to see the Grand Canyon. You can
Yes.
see the Grand Canyon, it is objectively real, right?
But it's not
so
objectively
the proposition
scary.
with everybody can eat a banana,
Mhm.
right. So, well, what are the conditions? Because if it's just the statement under any condition, well, then no, that's not objectively true.
Mhm.
Unless you're just saying that a banana can fit in a mouth.
And
Right.
it
So
doesn't fit
it
in
all
every mouth.
depends on what the proposition is.
Yeah, it does. What I'm saying, though, is that every argument, every proposition that you can make, so first, every reason why a proposition should exist must be linked to the propositions you can make about it. And there's assumptions that you have to make to get from what's theory to hypothesis. Those propositions that you're making must then be linked to the empirical world. And so you have to make assumptions between the propositions about the world and the way that you're observing it. And then the observations that you make about the world must be then linked to interpretable data. So there's assumptions about that. Some of those are explicable, and some of them are so deeply held that you don't know to say them, and others you don't know that you're making. So this is what Quine referred to as auxiliary assumptions. And all science is predicated on these layers of knowledge making and the auxiliary assumptions attached to it, because we don't really care about the exact data. We care about the level of the theory, which has to go through the interpretation of the data, how we collected the data, how the data relates to a hypothesis, how the hypothesis then relates back to the theory. So there's all these layers of error between here and there.
Right. And if it's the same under the same conditions, then it'd be objective.
So the problem in at least the social sciences is that what the same conditions means is just indeterminate. You can't say that you have the same conditions twice, because literally in a social world you never have the same conditions twice.
I was gonna say, it's like, yeah, I don't think it works with social conditioning, but I think it's similar to what you often say, that everyone's truth is their own kind of thing, of like their truth. Like when people are talking to us and clearly lying about how their life is, that it's like they're living through their own truth, even though it's not objectively correct. It's still true to them, and that's how we can focus on it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I think Elder's trying to separate living a lie versus living in what you've really experienced.
Yeah.
And the problem is we take our own truths, we start off with all these theories, all these stories that we've been told, and we map them on top of what we experienced.
Well, I mean,
So we
I
end
don't
up-
I don't think he's trying to use this for a lot of those social sciences. I think this is mostly
Oh, sure.
for.
Yeah, this is mostly about epistemology.
Yeah.
Right. And then I go and define subjective right below it.
Yeah, that was experienced differently under the same circumstances or conditions. What I did was
Yeah,
guided
that's
by...
separate.
Oh,
There should be a line break.
okay, got it. So, if we're talking about in a laboratory, right, everyone has agreed that we're going to set the laboratory temperature at 72 degrees. we're going to have, this is how we're going to define what a BTU is. This is the thickness of the Bunsen of the Pyrex that we're heating up, right? We are going to get our chemicals from this lab with this kind of variance around those chemicals. So with those stipulations in place, then absolutely you can see if you can have replications of those experiences. However, even then, there's a very good book called Laboratory Life by Bruno Latour. And he points out how the generation, dissemination, and replication of knowledge is still embedded in a fundamentally human system. That is, it used to be Western scientists, Americans and Europeans, thought they were so much better than the sciences produced by Chinese or Japanese people because they had all of these objective criteria. But when you take a step back, you see that rigorous, consistent, that is the closest you can get to a consistent or useful epistemology, and it gets replicated all over the place. We've invented science many times. It's not unique to the West. It's just that we've centralized our methods of doing it, and we've gotten very precise at it. But there were fantastic people that were studying Shinto and knew when the beam was going to break in a building, how long it was going to break, how it was going to break. These sorts of insights are knowledge. They're true, replicable insights that are useful. Like, there are all sorts of things that people did. The idea of, for example, an antioxidant, very recent in the West, but if you go look at traditional Chinese medicine, you find a lot of foods that are super high in antioxidants. And those sorts of insights are things we overlook because we had this as though we're better than them idea about all of their many years of generating rigorous, consistent knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is I agree with you in trying to get people to being understanding the value of objectification. I just don't buy this 100% this is objective truth idea under many circumstances.
I suspect that objective truth means something different to you than it does to me.
Yeah, I would say everything that we come to believe must have a probability attached to it.
I think you're mistaking objective truth with absolute truth.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you say objective, you said you can
objective
see the same thing under the same circumstances.
It's just a category that you put a set of knowledge into. It's not a property that something possesses. It's just a check mark that it's met this criteria. It's under this label until further knowledge is learned and find out that this isn't always the case under the same circumstance. And it's actually subjective.
I think he's trying to the truths he's trying to make people think about are more surface level, less deep, and the fact that we're in a day and age where the group that went there's alternate truths and things like that of like what was the saying that
we're using alternate facts about how many people are at the
alternate facts. Where people are using alternate facts commonly, we need to definitely allow people to think on even just a surface level of what are truths. Yeah. Yeah.
And Elder's definition of objective as a category by which we classify knowledge that we have, I think that's accurate, right? Yep. Because it's not a official fact of the world, simply the way that we've come to how do we categorize knowledge as fact or opinion. And teaching people the difference between fact and opinion is super powerful because they don't know the difference between how they feel and how the world works.
Right.
Noah.
Yeah, the big takeaway was turning it into a problem that you're solving as a group gets their mind oriented to accepting information and new ideas and being a part of, developing that piece of their brain that's underdeveloped.
What a great insight, Elder, because you and I, we could play the game for other people all we want. It's not going to get them any better at playing, right?
I think the people in the room that I had, and
Mhm.
I didn't recognize any of them, so it's a
Mhm.
fresh batch of whoever on big screen, which
Yep.
that's always a grab bag. So
So-
I think it did something good.
Very cool. Yeah. Oh, we're gonna have a new influx of people after Christmas because Quest 3s and stuff. Yeah, Noah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I thought it was so cool that you kept my good idea, bad idea thing up there, and it just shows that you're as fair and balanced as a group that I tell people that you are. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't want to be thought of as balanced at all. I think
Oh,
that would be good, but balanced.
could I-
Yeah, we're never
could I
gonna
throw
delete
out,
anything off here unless it's like
oh,
terribly racist.
even if it's a bad idea. Okay, well, I guess I can't feel good about it then. I thought you kept it up there for a different reason. Could I propose another one? You don't have to type it in there unless you think it's has validity and
Or
is helpful to the
interesting,
group. But
yeah.
I do think it does. So as far as a good idea, bad idea, I think it's a bad idea for people to enter into a conversation or a debate room while simultaneously
There's someone
keeping
talking
other
right now?
participants blocked.
No.
For instance,
Oh,
I
got
can't
it
hear
blocked.
anything that Elder has said for the last 5-6 minutes since I've entered. So I can't really be part of the
Elder, do you have
conversation.
Noah blocked?
I do.
Okay,
I
do
do.
you want Noah not to be in here? Because see, what we have is the folks that are volunteering, and the fact it's not my room or Mirko's room or Jazz's room.
If
or
he
Pat.
asks me politely to unblock him, I will.
Noah, unblock him.
Can you just tell him that I'm just hoping that at one point in my life I'll get to be his gay lover and that I'm always going to be his friend.
Oh, you know what?
Okay, I think he gave you the most polite possible request, and that was to
I
be
think
kicked.
I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yeah,
Thanks,
no.
guys.
He made it clear. Yeah, he's such a. God damn it, Noah.
So,
Yeah,
Elder,
I'm sorry. Bye.
I don't know what Noah had to say, but
Yeah.
that was so upsetting. But that's fine with me.
Yeah, I think
Well,
he's
Elder.
angry I kicked Noah, but it's like,
Oh,
what the hell? Yeah, no, Noah was clearly.
I
being
don't
in
know.
bad faith.
I can't interpret the meaning of what he said, Elder. Are you seeking a sexual relationship with Noah?
I cannot say I am.
Okay, so that would be a very rude statement that Noah made, not a honest and kind statement.
Oh, what did he say?
Oh, he said like.
Oh, he simply
Yeah, go for it.
he said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Let Elder know that I look forward to and hope that one day he will accept me as his gay lover."
Huh.
I thought he was trying to be nice. It
It
turns
seems out
out
of character.
it really seems out of
really
character for
seemed
Noah.
Like, yeah. Usually
He's
he's
really
really
angry.
good at faking like oh
Covering.
yeah fig leaf, but he has
Yeah.
no fig leaf for you. And in fact, his bad idea was criticizing you for having him blocked.
Yeah,
Huh.
that's what he wanted.
All
written
he
up
has
there.
to do is ask politely for me to unblock him.
See, I thought he was doing that.
This is something I've kind of plotted out. I've been waiting for this moment.
You've been working on getting Noah so spun up. He comes at you pre-spun up.
I mean, at least Noah's honest and not being the bootlicker he usually is. No offense.
He really very good at it. But okay. All right,
I got a whole thing I'm doing.
I gotcha. Yep.
Funny thing is, I know
So-
he has a second account, so I wonder if he'll come in under that. And I wonder if you have it blocked.
I love what Elder did here, but my comment about hell, maybe I engaged in it, but did not know it was a thing around the fluid compensation. Yeah. Yep.
What?
Yep. Thanks, Hollywood. So,
I think he's talking about the fluid compensation
Yeah.
that we are adding
Yeah,
to the
I think-
list. He's mixing up.
it's going to be
things.
really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot to mention the thing about Scotsman that is true. If it's not Scottish, it's crap. That's just a fact. That's not a fallacy. All right.
Objective truth.
What did the Scottish think? It's a joke. It's a joke about epistemology. And he said, we should look at things instead of just listen to what the church tells us.
Oh my God.
I assume this is Noah.
I accidentally kick people too. It's okay.
Okay, do you have him blocked on this account?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to block him on this account till
Oh,
he asks
don't,
politely
Elder.
to unblock me.
That was.
Okay, well, ask politely, Noah.
Ask
You
politely.
gotta,
All he has to
and
Oh,
for your
Elder.
edification, Noah, homosexual relationship with anyone at this time.
My poor
Rather,
attempt at I thought it was breaking the ice. It's an awkward situation.
Now, here's the alternative. Just say, hey, sorry about that, man.
But I'm not sorry.
I'm not sorry.
Well done.
You would have, I mean, I might be if he. I still want to have a friendship with
I
him
didn't
and
even
not.
say he has to
you know,
apologize.
block
He just
and
has to
be able
ask
to
me
communicate.
politely to unblock him.
Okay, he
Oh,
doesn't
just
even...
ask him politely to unblock him.
You know, it would mean a lot to me if you would unblock me. I've always enjoyed your presence. That clear.
Oh, he did a very
All right.
nice.
You want to hear what he had to
That's
say?
really nice.
Yeah.
He said, Elder, it would really mean a lot to me if you kept me blocked. It proves.
Okay, no. He said that he
No.
enjoys having you in his rooms. So
And it would
please
mean a
unblock
lot to
him.
him.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sure, I can unblock him. No problem. I'm glad he asked so nicely.
Yes,
It
I was
was
very, very
very nice.
polite.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mind, Noah, if you come in here after I kick you, like a third time.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
ban
a block
evasion is
until
no,
I
no
unblock
go.
you.
I was just worried there was a miscommunication.
Yeah, the
My bad.
miscommunication is you said something kind of homophobic, so
Super
I kicked you.
homophobic.
Yeah.
The fuck, dude.
Okay, I'll be honest. It was super homophobic, so I kicked you.
There, I'm sure he'll pop
Well,
up anytime now.
Thanks for,
All right, you got
for
him on?
you guys helping try
yet.
to mend the bridge there. Appreciate it.
Oh no! We're not helping you, Noah. We're just setting Elder up to do more tweaking of you. We
Yeah.
know that's what's happening. Yeah, you know that's what's happening. You're a sloppy bitch and you love drama. We know.
I do love the
So rude.
Do you have any other bad ideas?
I was just
or
trying to break
anything?
the ice there, Noah. It's an awkward situation.
Yes.
Well, I got him unblocked. I'm not sure why he's
Well,
not
yeah,
popping
I
up.
think you have to leave the room and
Leave
then come
and-
back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh wait, Elder's already doing it. Don't do it.
Oh, Noah can do it too.
Sure.
Did you have any bad ideas?
Leave and don't come back.
Yeah, we were. No. No, we like listening to your ideas, whether they
But,
be good
There
or
we
not.
go.
There's Elder. Thank you so much, Elder. I really do appreciate that.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
See, civility wins over. Right?
Yes, sir.
Civility politics.
I find civility politics the most uncivil.
Exactly. It means that while I stab you with my policies, you have to thank me. Pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's about treating politics and so forth as a game instead of recognizing the human lives that are suffering, right?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, every rule, if it's truly enforceable, has a man with a stick that will hit you if you don't follow it.
Yeah.
Could you say that one more time? That was interesting.
Yeah, every institutional rule, right? Every government law, if you don't follow it, has a man with a stick in his hand and a gun on his hip He's going to hit you to make you follow that rule if you don't want to follow it enough. You get a $10 speeding ticket and then you don't pay it. They come to get you, but you don't comply with moving. Eventually, they're going to beat you and drag you away.
That's a
All
good
power
thing,
is
isn't it?
derived from violence.
All violence is derived from power.
Well, I think violence is what backs power. There is no power if you don't have violence to back it.
So what's the
See, now-
alternative then?
Here's the alternative. Instead of what's called ontology or origin of power coming from violence, you could think of power coming from imagination. And power is the ability to get people to imagine or keep them from imagining some different future. There's your alternative. And in that world, we've simply chosen to imagine a world where we make up these laws where we beat people with sticks. We could imagine a world. Yeah, it starts with religion / military / accountancy.
How does that protect you from the people who actualize violence and then just take everything from the people who pretend to have?
Yeah, that's a great
you're speaking
question.
of?
So, if I could give you an example of a nation state instead of communities that did exactly this, would you be happy with that?
Maybe.
Yeah. So it's called the Hopewell Exchange Zone. There were many, many native groups, you would call them nations today, that met together to talk about how to trade with one another in North America. This is why we have pyramids in Mississippi, or along the Mississippi River. They would meet together and talk, how are we going to do this exchange? They did it for hundreds of years. And then one day they said, you know what? Actually, we don't need to tell each other what to do. We'll go back to our own nations and live our own lives. And if someone is suffering a natural disaster, like a hurricane or an earthquake, we'll help one another. If one group of people tries to rise up and attack another, we'll all rise up together and put them back down. But otherwise, we're going to let each other live their own lives in their own communities. So that is where I came to this idea of left libertarianism from listening to Native American scholars talking about this history, this anthropological history of how it's possible to exist in a world where people are both free and volunteer to help one another.
Yeah,
That's a good one. Can you volunteer to stop talking? Anyways, Murkov stole the website. Murkov stole the website.
All right.
I did.
It's pretty cool.
Murkov did. It's
I stole all
It's
the
pretty
websites.
utopian, and
no, it's actually
in the
it is.
in the expanse of
Hold
human
on.
history, having like one example of somebody of a people
one 1,500-year example of a massive,
temporarily
massive concert.
got to
500
get that
years.
respect. I just
Yeah,
don't.
it was like 1,000 years of the Hopewell Exchange Zone, 500 years of
What, did you bring
the...
social herpes in with you? What the fuck is this?
This is not me.
It's just
So,
you know,
so
it
that's an
goes
example.
It goes against the harsh realities of human nature, and I think what would happen in actuality.
Well, except the harsh reality of human nature is that we actually did see this happen, and the only
the
reason
harsh
it fell apart was the destruction, the stand-like destruction
the
of
harsh
90+%
realities,
of the population.
The harsh reality, sir, is that if you followed that
and what do you base
prescription,
this knowledge on?
Somebody more.
Where did you get this information?
I don't know. All of human history. Somebody
All
more
of human,
powerful
except
than
the
you,
human history that I just presented you.
Somebody more powerful than you would just take what you have.
Well, I'm not just me. It's all of these collectives. You see, if the entire concert of Europe agrees,
it's one collective in a very limited area. And
North America.
If you go through like the early and middle ages of Europe and Asia, you can see the exact opposite of that.
It's funny, Nico.
All
is
through
his name.
thousands of years, and I'm glad you have the one example.
yeah, except if
But
you
the-
look
but the
at
truth is
Africa,
that-
you have
the
the
truth
same
is that
outcomes as well.
Africa's got a whole pile of bad examples.
Yeah,
for
all
that
of them,
as well.
all of them happening
So-
after
so,
their
like,
500
I like
year
the
of
idea
tribalistic
I like
warfare.
the idea of it, but in
Of-
reality, it's not.
No,
it's
Halo.
not.
Halo,
possible.
it isn't until we have European settlers come into Africa and push people over, showing them murder instead of ritualistic
but
combat,
saying
that
it
we
isn't
get things
until
like the Zulu Expanse.
It's saying
until
it
then,
isn't until
we had a concert
it's just utopic again, because
again, this is
reality
nothing to do with
is that
utopia.
it isn't until
No,
actually
reality is that for hundreds and hundreds of years, groups of people can live side by side, letting one another just live their lives
I'm
and
sorry.
volunteering
If you're comfortable
to help one
living,
another.
if you're
not
comfortable
actually
living
sorry.
that way, if you're comfortable living unprotected, waiting for the
What
next
are you
person to come and
talking
take what you
about?
have,
If
then that's fine.
everyone agrees to rise up against the belligerent in a fight, then you
It's
don't
so-
have
it's
a
so
problem.
ridiculously utopic that I can't even put into words. my
Right,
friend.
right. It's outside of your framework because you don't
No,
understand
it's not outside of my
the
framework. It's
history.
outside of your theory is outside of reality.
It's not a theory, it's observable
It's
history.
so outside of the entire
Hold on,
expanse of
Noah.
human history.
Expand
It's so
on it.
outside the entire expanse of human history. Human history is packed
Halo,
to
Halo,
the.
Halo,
wait,
Halo,
wait.
Halo.
No,
You're
don't just Halo me. Don't just Halo me. Don't just Halo
Dedicated
me.
to this idea so deeply that you're not
Oh my
engaging
God!
with the
You're gonna
historic
talk
facts
like
that I'm
this,
giving
and
you.
so talk over
And
me,
so,
and then
because
talk
you're
like
not
this,
able to do that,
and
you're
talk
what's
like a
called
left-wing
spinning out.
douchebag, and
So,
like
the problem
talk
is
over
you're
me instead of letting me
emotionally
finish
spun
my
up,
thought and keep
because
going
you're
on and
emotionally spun
on
up,
and stuff
you
like
can't think
this
through.
because you don't know what you're fucking saying.
Dude,
Yes, that's
History
one
is
of us,
packed to the
for
fucking
sure.
ceiling of
It's
war
definitely one of us that
and
doesn't know what
death
they're talking
and
about.
taking from the less powerful is packed to the ceiling with that shit. And to think that you can actually say that people are just gonna fucking get along and
Yeah,
and
I
and just
hope you never
fucking like
change. It's the worst
make
thing
it
I could
figure
wish upon
like
anyone.
figure it out is just fucking
I really
silly.
hope you do change because no one should have to live as you.
I wish
It's
I
such
hope you
fear.
change too, man.
All right, so we don't need to kick him. We just need to mute him and go over to Noah.
Oh yeah.
No, you can kick me. Please kick me.
I feel
Please
like
kick
I
me
feel
and
like,
stick to your.
like I didn't.
Oh, did we lose Noah?
Wait. No, wait. 1 second. Did I mute the wrong person?
Noah freeze.
Mo,
I think from
Noah froze.
You kicked Kozen.
I didn't kick anyone.
No, kick me,
No,
please.
Kozen left.
Kick-
He said
No,
fuck
I'm
this.
muting Halo. I'm
Yeah,
trying
so
to see. I think
The
Noah
fact is
froze.
that we'll
I'll
give
do you
another
one better.
example.
I'll block you.
We'll give you another example. People think that China is a thing. There were many, many so-called Chinese empires that weren't empires of a emperor of China with some big leviathan that would kill you if you didn't agree. Instead, it was a lot of people that came together with their distinct ethnic groups and what we would call nations today and said, no, we'll just kind of work together. Calling China a thing is like calling Europe a thing. There's a lot of countries inside of China by European standards, and there's a lot of languages that we call Chinese. That's like saying that Italian and Spanish are the same because they're European. This is a colonizer's mindset, but it's not the way that they live their lives. The problem is that when you start engaging in colonization and enslaving people and trying to take land from others and saying this whole group of people is inferior to me, that mindset gets what's called retrojected. It becomes the history that you see throughout history because that's what you see today. And we do that all the time. We take modern frameworks and we throw them across history. But this idea of mass colonization is pretty rare amongst people.
Yeah, like currently, like I would say in the United Kingdom and all that area, UK, and all of that, or the EU, pretty much. Like all those countries of like France, Spain, England, they all used to fight and like literally hate each other, and now they're like they understand this is my borders. We can work peacefully. We can travel between each other. There's no big problems there.
Yep. In the same way, between states, people move. It's obvious that you can have something the size of the United States do that because that's what we're doing. Now, the question is, do you need to have a large leviathan to put people down? And the answer is no. As long as people share the principle of nonviolence, then if any one rabble-rousing leader comes up, they'll still have enough distinction between one another. They'll say, well, I don't trust him.
Yeah,
And then
I
he
think,
won't be able to unify people.
Yeah, I think especially nowadays where it's like we have satellites. Like if there's a big country preparing for war, we would know about it. Like there's no there's no like surprise invasion coming that could easily attack another country. It's always known. It's there's only a finite amount of space on this earth. And it's
except for China's secret underground industrial war industry. They've built underground so the satellites can't see them.
And then they have all this might they don't want anyone to know about. Wait, what?
They'll have to drill under the ocean to get to us.
Oh,
they're going right through the core, and they're going to get our thermal energy halfway through.
Strategic thermal energy. Soon we'll have no volcanoes left.
Yeah.
Noah, you were asking questions. Are you available?
Oh, yeah, I didn't want to have to roll back something that you probably just expressed while I was briefly gone, but I didn't fully understand your point of view on this subject. I must be misunderstanding something. You're not saying that if somebody is just repeatedly breaking the just simple traffic laws and speeding around town habitually, that there shouldn't be some ramification. I must be misunderstanding it to some degree.
Oh, I think you're asking a different question. The question I was answering is what's the structure of our laws, right? So your parking ticket, let's say in a handicap spot, and you get a ticket. It's $150. No one needed to park there, but you broke the rules. Eventually, if a bureaucrat decides they really care enough, someone with a stick in his hand and a gun on his hip is going to come to your house, and they're going to murder you. And they're going to execute you if you simply do not go along with them, or at very least beat you into unconsciousness and force you. If you don't have to be violent back. Just don't do anything. They'll get you. So, is that a reasonable thing? I would like to imagine a world where what you lose is because you don't get beaten and drawn to jail if you owe money.
In America, do you?
It is absolutely for sure. Yeah, I mean I've seen. So Noah, the reason you think that that's not a thing is because you live in a world where it's not a thing. But for me, I've seen my father ripped from our home while my mother is holding on to a crying child as things are being thrown out of our house because, it was evicted. Or because, you had a hot check. Now, in some places, if you have debt, you aren't beaten and thrown in jail for it. But if you have the wrong kind of debt, that is, debt that goes against the rules of the real power holders in society.
IRS.
The IRS, yeah. If you write a hot check, so now you've upset the banks. If you've got a bunch of parking tickets, so you've upset the local municipality. Now they send people with sticks to beat you because you owe them money. And that is the reality of our system.
There's no actual laws that would allow that to occur. That was somebody acting outside of
sticks to beat
No.
you is the metaphor.
It's literal. It's literal. The guys with the sticks and the guns are police, but they're there to arrest my father for writing a hot check.
Okay.
Right?
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
So he doesn't go along fast enough. He's like, I've got all these medications. I got to get those. So what do? They knock him against the wall and put some cuffs on him. Yeah, now he's got 48 hours in jail without his heart medication.
There's a really great video I like to go to.
those writers are wrong?
I had a situation like that happen to me. I mean,
I'd love to hear.
I had a similar situation, but I recognized that that they didn't operate within the laws and the procedures that were set forth for them.
Oh no,
And-
it's
and-
definitely the law. If someone comes to arrest you and you don't comply, then they beat you until they can get you in the car.
Yeah.
That's the rules.
If
Eh.
if a police officer tells you you're under arrest and you don't comply, it doesn't mean that you're not under arrest, and that entails tasers and physical force. That's just the only way that can.
This
play
is
out.
what I said. And it isn't the only way you could do it. You could not beat people for owing you money, which is a thing we do when it's not the government that you owe money to.
How many videos have you seen
Or
of
if it's
somebody
in the government.
Right.
sassing back to a cop and the cop just literally slamming him against the car or something like that? Or just bending their arm in the wrong way, or just fucking with them in general, and then
I've
it's
seen
being called
It
as they
happens.
were resisting arrest, or they were not complying
There's
with
also
the
plenty of
orders.
videos of the opposite.
The best way to get a cop to start shit is to disagree with his right to frame the situation. It's normal people out walking their dog that get beaten by police because they're not doing anything wrong. And they're like, back the fuck up. You don't have a right to tell me I'm a criminal. On the other hand, if someone is committing a crime, they're like, oh, sorry, officer, I don't know who did what. Oh, well, absolutely, sir. Because they know they don't want to get beaten by this cop because they're guilty. So the system's designed to harm the
had
people
to-
that are least...
I'd have to hear the alternative. If I'm a renter and somebody is stopped paying their rent and I'm put into a position where I'm going to lose my property because I was
that's
counting on
good.
this revenue.
Cool.
What method do I have to proceed
Don't
with?
scalp homes.
I don't know what that means.
If there's a limited supply of something and you buy more than you can use and then you jack up the price on that thing, like seats at a Taylor Swift concert, that's called scalping. And if you do it with homes, that's also scalping. So, if you buy more homes than you need, and people need homes to live in, and then you charge them more because they need those homes, you are scalping homes. So, I have no sympathy at all for home scalpers.
The premise, as far as I understand and heard it, is flawed because they're not buying more homes than they need.
Absolutely.
They're buying an additional home as an investment. to
Hey,
make
if you really want an
profit.
additional home to have an investment, you go build that home and then sell that home. That is you
You're-
investing resources to generate something new so that you can sell it to someone else. That
You're
would not be
against
home
the-
scalping. That would be
You're
home
against the
creating.
concept of renting. I mean, I
Yes.
People
rent.
get mad at the price
I
of gas
rent.
when it's too high. And by your standard, they have the right to raise the gas price as high as they want. And nobody should complain.
Yeah,
that-
all
when I
of the
say-
oil
when I say
companies
I
should get
rent,
together
I-
and decide they
I
just
don't-
want to charge.
I sent you the
I'm
video
not
link.
renting a property.
Yeah,
I'm
I'd like to
paying
see it.
somebody
Like
rent because
4
that
minutes.
offers me a place to live. I'm okay with the concept of people owning
Hey,
property
Noah.
and renting it to me.
Noah, if
But I
if
think you
you
need to
needed to be a
report the
renter,
answer to your question.
then you can pay for a home because renters don't just pay for the home. They pay for upkeep on the home, they pay for the taxes on the home, and they pay for the required profit on the home. So every renter is a better home buyer than the person who owns a home because they're paying more. Tay?
Yeah, very nice. I like everything you said so far. Wanted to go back to the point you were making about, before we get too far away from it, the point you were making about the not the
Yes, sir.
And just wanted to add that they didn't even find prisons here. In my research, they hadn't found prisons in those times.
You know, I don't want to, and Ty, that's true. That's not the system, right? That's a European system for dealing with power and imbalance. And it's based on this lordship concept of, like, land ownership, literal landlords that are lords. But let's not make the mistake of saying that all native groups were somehow magical and good, right? Every group has things that they screw up. Every group are just human beings trying to muddle through. And the real question is, do you let people have the freedom to make those mistakes? And I think, like in a modern world, there are things we wouldn't tolerate. For example, one group believed that every crime deserved the death penalty. However, the women of whatever smaller group that they were in could vote to completely absolve somebody. So every crime was the death penalty, but the women would vote to absolve people. So almost all the time, there was no penalty for crime. But I'll tell you, if somebody ended up stealing something and they were found to be guilty by the tribe, the community, and the community women voted to kill that guy, I guarantee he had it coming. Right? He just happened to get caught for that thing. Now,
I agree.
Yeah, I'm not defending it, right? I'm not saying that's the way we should do things. I'm saying that every group has a different way of looking at things, and some of them are good in some ways, and others are good in other ways. For example, the Pacific Northwest, there was a group of people who engaged in potlatch ceremonies, and this sort of economic system, you just give and you give and you give, and that's what gains you social status. So if there was bartering, and mostly it was in community, right? But if there was bartering, instead of trying to negotiate each other down, you'd negotiate each other up. Let's say you have a wicker basket and I have 6 fish. I might say, well, I can give you 6 fish for that wicker basket. And you say, oh, no, that's too much. How about 3 fish? And I'd say, no. How about 5 fish? And you say, well, I'll settle on 4 fish. So I give you 4 fish and you give me a wicker basket. Instead of thinking we screwed each other, you think, what a great guy I am for offering you so much. And I think, what a great guy you are for offering so little. It's a different mindset. Now, they're not a perfect group with all their giving. And this mindset was banned by the British when they got to the Pacific Northwest because they saw it as fundamentally undermining the way the British ran their systems, right? At the same time, they had slaves. And that slavery system was absolutely abhorrent to another group of natives just to the south of the Columbia River who refused to eat fish. Now, they had fish, but they refused to eat fish because that's what those people up near the Columbia River did, and they wanted to be nothing like them. So they were very materialistic. They were very industrious, but they absolutely refused to have slaves, and they absolutely refused to eat this sort of fish oil. It's a whole, so different groups break apart from each other. They see themselves as the opposite of each other, and they're just trying to muddle through. So, sorry, Ty, I don't know if that helps add to what you're saying, but you're right. I know of no circumstance where there's this mass incarceration system amongst natives.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. But can it happen? Yeah. I think the question is, how much can we tolerate? And I think the Hopewell Exchange Zone said we can tolerate people living their lives however they want. I wouldn't tolerate that. I think that there are some basic things like child labor laws, sexual assault, slavery, environmental protection. These are things that I would say we absolutely still need, not just a strong central national government, but a worldwide agreement on basic human rights being protected.
It occurs to me that maybe prisons just became popular when they became profitable.
Yeah. So it's a kind of bureaucracy. So when we lost all of our lords, we lost all of these jobs that we had created for some lord's cousin. And we replaced it with a professional middle class of useless middle lords who are now useless middle managers. And we're talking about creating jobs or creating good jobs. What we're really talking about is creating a way for useless people in our society from a higher rung of society to make sure that they have a decent life. So in prison is just one of the many ways that we do that. And the fact that we treat prisoners like cattle that are chattel, right? Stock makes perfect sense. It's the exact same logic we've always had.
Well, in a lot of ways, didn't we just replace our slavery system with the industrial prison system to get cheap labor?
I mean, this is my conspiracy.
No, I don't think so.
Initially.
If you
I mean, a lot of prisons do use labor,
and initially thereafter, vagrancy was first created as a criminal act, so that an unemployed black person would be put into jail, and the Constitution allows slavery of the people who are prisoners. So that was the point of creating vagrancy as a crime. And before that, it was nearly unknown to see homelessness because a church or a community would take care of somebody that needed the help. Even today, if every church in America took in one homeless person, like it was a mandate to keep your church that you held on to one homeless person, we'd have to dissolve 1/3 of the churches in America because they'd run out of homeless people to take care of.
It seems like a romanticized version of the past to think that the people that we deem appropriate to put in prison because we don't know what else to do with them. In the past, there was a different way of handling that, and I don't even think that everyone in this room can agree. If we take it to an extreme, like that Luigi who just gunned somebody.
We're not
down
going to be
in
talking
the
about
street.
that. This is we're going to move on because
A little too close to home. Maybe it's
we're going to talk about what Elder has sent us, and I think that'll be very valuable.
Perfect. Let's see. Go.
Touchy subject. Huh?
Yeah, it is a little bit right now.
Yeah, we might as well talk about the
I know you don't
Rise of
wanna get on
Skywalker.
a terrorist
Hollywood
watch
Court.
list
Hollywood
for-
Court is trying to do something even worse and talk about Rise of Skywalker. So
That would that is a cultural fight I cannot take part in. The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, let's go.
Missing it.
Capitalism must have unemployment to exist. The way the boss stops you from asking for more money is to threaten you, implicitly or explicitly, with firing you. If there were full employment, people could ask whatever pay they want, and there'd be no one to replace them. Publications like the Wall Street Journal and Financial Times openly worry when the unemployment rate goes too low because wages go up, profit and stock values go down. Capitalism must have an army of unemployed workers in order to exist. And what do you have when you have an army of unemployed workers? You have an army of unemployed workers who want to eat. And humans are not going to let themselves just starve. So they get involved in illegal business.
You're leaving out assault, murder.
All business, legal and illegal, uses violence to regulate itself. Run! Run! If you try to run out of the grocery store with a cart full of groceries, either you're gonna get away with it, or someone's gonna physically stop you. Whether it's the security or the police. A hotel neighboring the MCI building decided they wanted to tear down your building to make a golf course. You'd use violence.
Wrong. This is where the law steps in to make things civilized. I have a deed showing my ownership.
Right. So you show the deed.
Fine.
The only reason that piece of paper is worth anything is because it implies that men with guns are gonna come to physically enforce the words written on it. Those men with guns are called police. The paper is a placeholder for the violence. Illegal business doesn't have this. Illegal business practitioners can't go to court and say, Your Honor, I was supposed to be buying a whole key of cocaine from the defendant. Clearly this is half baking soda. I demand restitution.
I've never seen this cocaine before in my life.
They can't go to the zoning commission and say that neighborhood is only zoned for 2 heroin vendors unless that guy has a special emergency permit or wants to limit himself to cocaine. Often. Hey, everybody! Pretty please, can you just get the fuck on the ground? Thank you so much! Not you, get up! If you rob the weed too, police come after you! So. You don't. You tell them poverty is due to bad choices of those impoverished. Even when they're smart enough to hide their point. This causes part of the working class, even the so-called others, to identify with the ruling class. A group of us are trying to change this whole thing. If you wanted to stop so-called crime and the violence that grows from it, you'd be a revolutionary. But you're not. You're a tool that helps capitalism run smoothly. A system that creates...
Let's add to this. When you look at that, the traditional response amongst liberals would be, oh, we need to redistribute wealth so that those who are impoverished can make sure that they are, not falling to some bottom level. However, redistributing the wealth is necessary to the maintenance of the system of lords, where some small number of people get more and more right to other people's wealth that they're producing. Because if you don't redistribute that wealth, then you end up with, as Hannah Arendt pointed out, the cause of authoritarianism, and that is excess human capital. When you have extra people, the nation state says, okay, we've been co-opted by the shareholders here. The shareholders have all the wealth that they need. They don't want what they have redistributed, but they have everything they can consume already. So there's extra people. So the natural logic of generating more and more poverty and fewer people working and not giving them not having the wealth that they need is that you have to have an authoritarian system that will take those people and send them to war to die, or allow them to starve to death, or, and this is the way the system is found to maintain itself since the Gilded Age, you take some of the wealth, not the actual elites, right, not the people that have made their way all the way to the top, but some people that are in the upper middle, and push them down so you can redistribute it amongst the other people that are at the bottom, and then they play the game again. Because otherwise you do have revolutionary conditions, like was pointed out in the video. So wealth redistribution is a necessary element. This is where Marx made his mistakes, right? He argued that, well, eventually capitalism is so efficient at redistributing wealth upwards, there would have to be socialism. And he was right. What he didn't know is that after socialism is more capitalism, because the people with all of that aristocratic wealth, now hid under the guise of stock instead of title that they pass on generationally, are able to maintain their place at the top by redistributing some of the wealth to the bottom. And then we have mascots that represent wealth, and they are the self-made billionaires. Everyone loves Amazon. And we say Jeff Bezos is so wealthy, but he is nothing. He is a worker bee in comparison to the wealth that's actually held by the massive... okay, that guy's speaking in tongues, so that must mean that I'm telling the Lord's words. Yeah, but Jeff Bezos' wealth is nothing in comparison to the actual... for example, Blackwater, Bridgewater, even the people that have all of the money congregated together, and then they're not in competition with one another because they all own little bits of each other's companies. So technically, the companies are in competition, but if you slice up the pie enough, where's the competition amongst the owners? There is none. The system has always been communistic amongst the most wealthy. And they don't get their names on lists of the wealthiest people, because individual people having that wealth isn't the game. Those are the mascots that you fight for.
Yeah, capitalism's not perfect. What's the alternative?
No,
that you're suggesting?
Well, no. I want to be. She was using capitalism in this very broad term, right? And people think that capitalism simply means being able to start an organization, being able to compete, being able to grow, and organizations need to die. We've learned this after many generations. I'm talking very specifically about the shareholder form of capitalism, where people who have so much wealth that they don't need to consume it can take that wealth they don't consume and demand that they have more right to someone else's work. That is to say, if you have so much stock that your stock is buying stock instead of you living off of it, then you are in a system where you must necessarily continue to have more wealth than all those other people that have to work to live. And when you're at that point, those people will grow exponentially in how much stock they own to the point where only their needs need to be met. And since they only have so much they can consume, more and more people will become unemployed. That's the problematic system.
Those people, that's their goal. That's what they are trying to achieve. They've already met whatever conceivable needs a normal person has. That is what they want. And that's what they're striving for. That happens to take place in a society where we have a tremendous standard of living, and people are trying to break our laws of our borders.
Who's we? You got a rat with universal health care in your pocket?
Oh, I'm happy with my standard of living.
Right.
I'm not a wealthy person. I'm just.
I am a wealthy person. And I'm not. Because I live in a society where there are homeless people who don't get health care. I come from a world of impoverished people where I have a friend who's lost toes because he didn't have health care. He didn't have what he needed to take care of his diabetes. Yeah, I'm not healthy with the society that I'm in, and I have plenty of money, and I can do whatever I want. But it's the rest of the people that I care about that are the problem, because they're suffering, because we built a system to make sure that my friend, he loses toes, but someone in New York, well, he's got a few more pennies on the board. And that's what really counts.
Yeah, well, I understand. I understand you want to live in a society where there's no suffering and nobody.
How about less?
Did I say that?
Can we?
Did I say no suffering? Yeah, did we say no suffering? Did we say it has to be a perfect utopia?
I don't know where you draw the line.
I draw the line on very basic human needs necessary to allow people to contribute to one another. This is outlined in Spheres and Duties of Government. It is the ethos of left libertarianism. The government's role is to provide what is necessary to allow people to contribute to one another, whether it's roads or food or healthcare or housing or education, whatever they need, so that they can authentically contribute. And the idea would be that people only work together in so much as they want to, instead of massive corporations hogging up the resources and the jobs and the market, because people are no more productive than when they're producing from their own heart, from their own conviction. And they have the most meaningful life when they do that. So you can have meaningful, very productive work from a society of people who are themselves contributing because it's what they want to do. So you enable people to do that, and you will get the best out of people. That is not crazy. It's been done before. It's very effective, but It runs counter to maintaining an aristocratic class of stock owners who get to take wealth away from laborers. But the moment you have those laborers who are building wealth for someone else, they know that's what they're doing, and they have every incentive to gold brick and not give that ownership class everything they have.
And where has this model been demonstrated to work better than what we have going on here?
Like right now, Denmark, like many countries have lots of support. They're not full-on left libertarian, but at very least, they're more economically free. Go to the Heritage Foundation. Every country above the United States in economic freedom. Every last one of them also has universal health care, also has better support for education, also has stronger labor rights, because the ability to form a business and compete is predicated.
Denmark is one of the most expensive countries in the world to live in.
The United States is one of the most expensive countries in the world to live in because of all the stuff you got to pay out of pocket.
Yeah, Noah, what's the homelessness rate in Denmark?
I'll be right back.
To immigrate into Denmark, you must live in Denmark for 8 years. There's a lot of things that we do better than
What does
Denmark.
that have to do with anything?
It's like we pay taxes, you know, and it's like, and then the government's saying, no, we can't use these taxes for you that paid the taxes. We have to give the tax break to the upper level people, when we should have every right to have the things that we want out of our tax money, the programs that we want to help people. That's what I don't understand. That's why when this bill went through today, they cut out, for no good reason, they just slashed, you know, programs to help people, the cancer research for children, and the money that was supposed to go to help the middlemen not take advantage of prescription prices, and precautions about letting China get our hold of our technology secrets. Like, all kinds of things were taken out of that bill just because why? It wasn't even helpful for us. It was just, no, you can't have this. I don't know. I'm not.
No,
I'm assuming everybody else is up to date on this.
On average in Denmark, when you go to rent, you have to pay 3 months
Noah.
deposit in advance.
Noah.
Yeah.
What does any of that have to do with whether or not they're more economically free?
I was only speaking to the quality of life and the opportunity given to the people. And if you have to pay 3 months, I couldn't pay 3 months advanced on a rent to move into.
Yeah, you know what's crazy, Noah, is that the people of Denmark can, because they actually rent the places, don't they? So you know what? That should be a light bulb moment. You can't pay 3 months of rent, but they can. So you're saying it's so expensive, but they have savings. Get it? Get it? They didn't have to spend all their money trying to save for retirement, trying to pay for health care. Get it? They have public services so they can save the money.
Do you live in Denmark? It's really apples and oranges in a lot of ways. There's so many fundamental differences between Denmark and the United States.
What was the argument? What was the question? Did it have anything to do with saying anything like what you're saying?
The question is, where is this concept?
Where is it working better?
Proven to work.
Sure.
And if you're
have you considered?
I think it's fair to make a fair comparison between Denmark and the United States. We're a place that invites immigration and has a very diverse culture. Denmark is not. Denmark doesn't have people moving from all across the world to be part of what we do here.
Whoa!
They most certainly do.
Yeah, they absolutely do, and they take in.
It's just a lot harder. It's a lot harder to do.
No, they have lots of people that they allow in. What? They're in Europe. They're in the EU. You could just go there.
That's not what.
That literally,
if
you're from Spain, you can just go there. Are you?
I don't think that's accurate.
Okay, that's not how the EU works. You can't just go to Denmark or Spain.
They're part of the EU.
I mean, I just told you that in Denmark, to obtain permanent residency, you have to live in Denmark for 8 years. That's
Okay, so that means that you can live in Denmark for 8 years before obtaining permanent residency, right, Noah?
So you're a second-class citizen for 8 years.
So by definition, yeah, by definition, you can be there for 8 years, right?
Yeah, and you
Yeah,
screw up
you-
once.
Without
Yeah,
being
I mean, you're
permanent.
not a true part of their culture. You're on like a probation period.
What is true part of their culture? See, you're grabbing onto all these ideas unrelated to the question at hand.
Well, if they're either a citizen or they're not, and they're not for 8
No,
years.
that's
Is
not
that-
how it
There's no
works.
two ways around it.
Would you assimilate
How is
yourself
that
to every
any
part of their
different from
culture?
America? What the
Yeah,
hell?
yeah, cat. Go ahead.
Okay, I didn't live in Denmark, but I lived in the Netherlands. And even in the Netherlands, even though you're not a citizen, if you're a legal resident, you can vote on certain elections. So you get more rights to vote who represents you over there than you do over here. So,
Yeah, there's this idea that the people that are being ruled should have the right to vote. And sometimes that includes people who are not citizens. They're still being ruled, right? So Switzerland, Ireland, and New Zealand are all easier to immigrate to and have better social support and are more economically free, and the immigrants have better outcomes.
84% of the people with an ethnical minority background in Denmark have experienced racism.
there is
84%.
racism over there. There's racism over here. There's racism everywhere. I've never been anywhere where there isn't racism.
Holy cow, you got 16% that didn't?
84%.
You got 16% that didn't. That's the big number. You know what that is? That 16% that didn't notice.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right, because racism embedded is a system that makes it so that the people that you're used to are the ones that do well because you're normal in society, right? And the people that are different are treated poorly. And you know what? That's how it works everywhere. So, that's 84% that noticed and the other 16% that didn't. That's all you found.
But that has nothing to do with the economic systems, and that's what
Yeah.
Or
the
outcomes.
discussion was about.
I was
Yes,
wondering
sir.
if there's an economic system that doesn't include money and a model, and how does that work? Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Communes.
Yeah, kibbutzes. It used to be very common that communities would just share if someone needed help, and you could work with one another or decide not to work with one another as you liked. We don't have any massive societies without money. But could it happen? Yeah. Yeah, you could have a system where you say these are the resources that we have instead of the abstraction layer of money, and then you more intelligently allocate resources and you say, oh, what was actually used in this production? What is actually available? There are smarter ways to do things than this very poor idea of creating this layer of money on top of how we exchange. And there are ways to do exchange that are intelligent. Like, last time someone, Mr. Calm, my brother, did dishes, he didn't ask me, well, what's the market clearing equilibrium on labor for dishes? How can I get the most money out of this? Right? We live in a system of constant sharing with just a little bit of money here and there wherever we've decided power has a right to stick its hands in. So there are ways to do this, but it's going to take a much, much greater mental shift amongst people. I believe we'll get there, though. I believe that we'll work for ourselves and for one another. We'll try and come up with new ways to organize and build things, and we'll be happy to do so. And we'll do it because we care about what we're doing instead of some monetary reward for doing it. And the best example I can think of is sci-fi, is Star Trek. No one's in Starfleet because they want to get rich doing it, because they could be as wealthy as they want wherever they want. They're in Starfleet because they want to explore the universe. And other people are scientists because they want to explore the world, or doctors, and so on and so on.
Heads up, I have a hard stop at 12:30.
Well, I think this has been a good conversation.
Yeah, we had a good night.